In our last video, we added a model parameter to model surface age and showed how to extract initial values for this parameter from custom information columns in your ForwardWorks program. We also showed how to set the increment, and finally we ran the model and looked at the output. In this video, we will look at a more robust way to set initial values for model parameters. We will still use the custom information columns in the ForwardWorks program, but we will insert a check to ensure that the values are appropriate and realistic. So if we can just take a quick recap at what we did in the last video, you will note that here we've got an Excel representation of our ForwardWorks program that we created in one of the first few videos, where we created a segment set and then joined information from our database into this ForwardWorks program. And that join operation created for us these custom info columns here. Now note again that we are only showing your ForwardWorks program here in Excel for the purposes of this video. When your model runs on our powerful cloud server, it will be extracting data from your database, but the column names for custom columns will be similar to those illustrated here. Okay, so with that formality behind us, you will recall that in our last video, we connected this info surf age column with our deterioration model setup file. In the parameter sheet, we added the parameter called surface age, and we connected the initial value so that it connects to a column in the ForwardWorks program, and the column was called info surface age. Now we also showed that that works very well, and we ran our model and looked at the output. However, if we take a look back at the raw data in our demonstration ForwardWorks program, then you will see, if I look at the data here, then I should not have in my data things like no data or blank, because in my join operation, you will recall that we showed you how the algorithm to fill no data values should actually put defaults or closest lookup values into these fields. So you shouldn't have any blanks or any fields with the name no data in it. So I'll just, as an example, just add two numbers here. However, apart from no data values or blanks, it is quite possible for your data to contain certain other values that will cause a problem in your model. For example, if we scroll down, you can see that here we have got a value that is a text value, and I'm actually expecting here a numeric value. Here I've got a totally unrealistic value for surfacing age. This looks more like a surfacing year. And here I've got also some text value, and all of these values will create problems in my model. And so if we are using the approach illustrated in our previous video, where our DMS file is simply directly extracting data from one of our custom information columns, then those incorrect values or invalid values are going to end up in the model. And that is one of the primary causes of errors in a deterioration model, is invalid or erroneous initial data that is used in the model and that causes problems downstream. So let's look at a better way to actually do this. Now you'll see, if you're using the DMS file that we provided for you, there is a sheet called info fields. And in this sheet, you will see that we've got this little table here. And in this table, we have got a row with the name info underscore surface age. And if you look at the value next to it, then you will see that that value is a named range that says info underscore surface age. Now, this is a very important feature of the Junavio deterioration model. As the model cycles through all of your modeling segments and it inserts the current values for the model segment into the placeholder values on this sheet here, and also these placeholder values here, it also, right at the start, will look in your entire workbook for any named ranges that the names match with the info fields in your ForwardWorks program. So you can see here it is a name info underscore surf age, and this name matches directly with the name of this info field. So as it cycles through all of these treatment links in the model, it is going to insert this value in, and then it's going to process this this treatment length, and then this value, and so forth. And so we can make use of this feature to first check and clean up any of the values contained in this column. And that's what we're going to do now. So going back to our DMS file, you can see in this file, my data is named correctly. This value here is where GenoViewer is going to insert the placeholder values for that info field. And then what we have done here is to provide a way to provide for this parameter a typical default, a minimum allowed, and a maximum allowed. And here you can find a final value. Now you can see this is quite a long Excel formula, and this is not a course in Excel, so I'm not going to explain how this works, but briefly, if you put any value in here that is invalid, for example, if I go and take one of these values here that are invalid, such as this one here, and I just copy that value and paste it in my DMS file here as a value, then you will see, because this is not a numeric value, the DMS will automatically change that to the default value. Right? Similarly, if I have a value that is outside of this allowed range, like 2014, then you will see it will automatically clamp that value to the maximum range, maximum of this range. So for all of your model parameters, you can just copy further rows in here. Just be sure to name these values here so that they exactly match the info columns in your ForwardWorks program. Now, these final values here are the cleansed or sanitized initial values. And you'll notice I use a very specific naming convention to name these cells. I prefix it with the word IFIN. And that means it's on the information sheet and it's the final value for surfacing age. So this named range is going to be automatically calculated to be a sanitized or a cleansed version of my data. And now I need to go and change my parameter so that the surfacing age will no longer directly talk to the column in the ForwardWorks program, but will instead use an Excel equation. So here I can delete this and I can put in here in the Excel equation, I can simply refer to this value, this final value on the info sheet where the information value has been sanitized. So you can see that if my initial value in my ForwardWorks program is 2014, it will clamp that value to the maximum surfacing age of 50. And you can see here, this is the value that will end up in my deterioration modeling data as an initial value. Similarly, if I have here in a raw data value like text value, then you can see the default will be applied. And that is the value that is going to be applied for this treatment length as an initial value. Of course, if I have a valid number in there, like let's say a surfacing age of 7.6, then that valid value will be the one that ends up as my parameter initial value. So this is a much better way of extracting initial values from your ForwardWorks program because it inserts another step which allows you to clean or sanitize your initial values and make your model much more robust. So we can now save this DMS file with this modification. And once again, it's very easy to run this. I go to GenoViewer, I go to the settings menu, forecast models, and I select my modeling setup. This is the same one we used in the last video. I can now go and upload my updated DMS file. I can upload the file, and once again, I simply now have to select my modeling setup, check my model, and once it's done, I can run the forecast. There, my model run is now completed, and I can go to the forecast view to look at the model output. So here I select my network and my ForwardWorks program. And once again, once the model is loaded, I can see the complete forecast over the modeling period for surfacing age. So in this video, we showed you how to set up your model so that it can robustly check and correct values from your database before they are used in your model. The method showed in this video will greatly reduce errors due to invalid data, so it is strongly recommended that you adopt this approach in your model setup. In our next video, we will add a second modeling parameter, rut depth, and show how you can make this parameter's increment a function of another model parameter. So in other words, we will show you how you can create dependency amongst model parameters. If you are following along with this video series and have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact us at info@lonrix.com. Thanks for watching.